What's going on?
Good evening, Epic.
Ooh, how's the chicken? Epic
Oh
Church.
man, it is snowy outside.
Man, it
Crazy.
is. We're about to get hit with some snow. I have a feeling we're gonna be snowed in tomorrow, which would be
Snow day for the
crazy.
kids.
Yeah, I think they'll enjoy it. But anyway, what's up, Michelle? I see you. You're the only one in the chat right now. Hello. Anybody else out there? We want to hear from you. Good to see you. It is, man. It's Thursday night throwback.
Yes, man, that came quick.
Yeah, it did feel like it came quick this week. My wife is here. Hey, Melinda. Good to see you too. Good to see everybody. So we took some time away this week from our series on Rhythms of a Disciple. We took a break from that and decided that we were going to celebrate. And this is something that we do every month that has 5 Sundays in it, which is just about once a quarter, right?
Yeah.
About once a quarter, we'll have 5 Sundays in the month. And on that 5th Sunday, we have come up with this very unique name, Fifth Sunday, to describe that. And hey, Tracy, welcome. And on the 5th Sunday, we take some time just to celebrate, some things that God is doing in the life of our church and body. We kind of, we celebrate what's happening in our ministry and what God has done through their ministry. And then also just in our lives, and it like Sunday, I wasn't there because I was in quarantine, but definitely was watching from home. And I saw a lot of just people celebrating births and babies galore.
There was a lot.
It feels like we will grow this church one way or another. Hey, Jody. Howdy to you. Good to see you. So anyway, just took a little break from that to celebrate. So tonight we're kind of taking a break as well to celebrate. I'm going to throw a question out there, and I'll share a little, just a few of our celebrations that we are celebrating. Hey, Bayless Bunch, good to see you guys. Let me throw this question out to you. What's the very first memory that you have of celebration in your life? What's the very first thing that you can think of that you remember celebrating in your life? Share that in chat. Hello, Mom. My mom's there. That's a good question. My mom's there. She says not snowing in Florida. Thanks a lot.
Hey, I will be there on Sunday in Florida.
That's right. Steve said it down there. He will be escaping the snow.
Yes, and the cold weather.
Maybe he can stop by and see you. Maybe you could cook him a meal.
Right.
While you're down there. All right. Well, anyway, what's the very first memory you have of celebrating? Steve, what's the very first thing you can remember ever celebrating in your life?
That is a good question. I remember when I was a kid, for Christmas, I got a Star Wars action figure, and it was Luke Skywalker, and I was so excited. And that was the very first present I opened up for Christmas that year. And then the next present was the actual I can't think of what they're called with the 2 legs.
It's like that, like an AT-AT or something like that.
Yeah. Oh man, I got that.
Dude, that was like the ultimate Star Wars. Toy back in the day.
Yeah.
That was it. Deb said birthday. She remembers a birthday. That was my memory too. Before I get into that though, I'm going to welcome Mel on. Mel got kicked out before we started here. She's back.
Hi, Mel.
Hello, Mel. So I remember. We can't hear you though. Just so you know. I can remember a birthday when I was a kid. My mom might even remember this, since I see she's in chat. But I can't remember if it was my mom who bought me this record, but it was a record for my birthday. And it might not even have been my birthday. Actually, it might have been my sister's, now that I think about it. But it played this catchy tune. And it was literally the same thing over and over again. And it went, hey, it was my sister. Maybe I had the same record, but it was, hey, Stacy, it's your birthday. And it would like, and it would be like, do-do-do-do-do-do. And it would do it over and over. And I bet you we played that song a million times over and over and over and over again. But I remember celebrating with her on her birthday. Mel, are you there now? Can we hear you?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can.
Welcome.
Sorry, my computer crashed. It just crashed.
Oh, so it actually shut down.
You did.
Yeah. So Deb definitely remembers a birthday. And then Melinda said her parents' 25th wedding anniversary. She was about 5 or 6.
Nice.
Oh, that's a special memory.
Yeah.
That's a good thing that you can remember that.
Yeah. What do they call it? The silver anniversary?
Is that silver at 25? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's funny how does anyone stick to that anymore? I'm curious. I wonder.
Well, like the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, you're supposed to give silver or supposed to give paper for one.
Oh, yeah, I never heard of that.
I'm at 28. We didn't really do anything for 25, so.
Oh, I got the yes from Deb.
You did? Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. My wife said my birthday with cherry chip cake and a strawberry shortcake doll that smelled like strawberries. Yeah, I remember those dolls. My sister
strawberry
had.
shortcake was the best. Those dolls.
Yes. I mean, yeah. How did they get them to smell like strawberry? You just wanted to eat them. My mom does remember. See, she remembers me getting that record. It was actually my sister, I think. But either way, she remembers us playing it over and over and over again. So, hey, Brian, what's going on? See you there. Welcome tonight. What about you, Mel? Do you have, so we were talking about what's our first memory that we can remember celebrating? The first memory that we have. Do you have anything you can remember?
For me, it was the first thing I think of that comes to mind is it was a Christmas. I was sick, but I got the Barbie stuff that I wanted, my Barbie dollhouse and my Barbies. That was the first thing I remember celebrating, even though I was sick.
Well, let me ask you this: did the sickness stop you from playing with the Barbies?
All I remember is laying on the couch, and I think my mom even had to open gifts. I mean, I was really sick, but I was still really excited. Sick. I was really sick, so I don't remember it. I don't remember. All I remember is getting them and being on the couch, and I was excited. So whether I was sick or not.
Yeah, that's the one that you just grab and you just sleep with it, until the next day when you can play. Mm-hmm. Sally, sharing some good news here. COVID hit for our 25th. COVID has a way of ruining stuff.
I'm telling you.
COVID even started on the week of my birthday.
Is that right?
It was, yeah.
Oh, now we know who to blame. Now we know who to blame.
Yeah, COVID.
You turned 50, right, Steve?
Close, but not as old as you.
Roscoe, Christmas guitar must have been 7. Oh, that's huge when you're.
Do you play guitar, Roscoe?
Oh, what's up with that? And if you don't play, think about if you would have started when you were 7 years old. Man, you would be like a master guitar. Yeah. By now. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, hit us back, Roscoe. Let us know if you're playing guitar or what's happening there.
Yeah, we'd love to know.
So we celebrated like a few things Sunday. I kind of wrote down a few of the things that I can remember that we celebrated. Every fifth Sunday, we try to have like some food and, and just share what God has been doing through the ministry and having people celebrate. And that's what we're talking about today, by the way, if you're just joining us, just celebration and how important celebration is in the rhythms of a disciple, just in our lives. So we celebrated with food. We celebrated some baptisms that had happened in the body since the last fifth Sunday that we had. We had four people take the dive. So that was awesome. We were celebrating that. We celebrated 4 new discipleship groups that multiplied out of groups that we already had. So we have some multiplication happening, disciples making disciples. That's super exciting, especially in this season, because, it's been hard to get traction in ministry right now with COVID, and that's hard to meet together. So to see multiplication happen like that is just amazing. We celebrated 8 church plants this upcoming year that we get to take part in planting, which is amazing. We have churches, scattered all throughout the U.S., and then we have a new one getting ready to start in Canada as well. And so we're going international, if you will. And so all of them are pretty far away. So I don't know how hands-on we will get to be, but we are helping resource them. We're helping them with training, coaching, all that stuff. So it's an amazing thing to think. And again, especially within this season, that we get to start 8 new church plants this year. That's why Epic continues to be recognized, right, on the when it comes to multiplication, because just of the church's generosity. Like, you guys are so generous when it comes to giving and just pouring yourself into others and other success, and just seeing new churches start. So just amazing thing. Let's see, anything else that you guys remember that we were celebrating? Oh, we celebrated, just again, getting back to generosity, but we were just celebrating the Christmas season. And even though we were meeting virtually, just how generous the body was with some of the things that we got to do for people, and the blessings, the way that we got to bless them over Christmas. But then also just, you guys really took it upon yourselves to adopt families through our partnership with Portland Community Fund, and the meals too through them as well. And so, I mean, that was, the whole thing just blew me away. It was incredible. So we just celebrated your generosity also. So just appreciate that. Tons of things to celebrate. Roscoe got back to us. He said, never stuck with it. Oh man, Hendricks would have had to step aside. He would too, man. Think about it. Wow. Little 7-year-old prodigy.
You still got time, Roscoe. Go on there.
That's true.
It's never too late.
That's true. It's never too late. Chad, purple Schwinn bicycle with a gold banana seat and chrome money bars. I don't know. 1977. Gold banana seat. I can picture it, and it's probably not as awesome as it is in real life, but that's amazing. Yeah. Cool. Sadie said babies.
Babies.
Are we having more babies?
I don't know. Just babies with 2 hearts. I don't even know what that means.
She loves babies?
Maybe. Sally said I had a purple bike with purple banana seat. Here we go with the banana seat again. With the handlebar tassels.
Tassels.
You had to edit that one. Monkey bars. Not money bars.
Yeah, monkey bars. Okay, thank you, Chad. I don't even know what monkey bars are. I thought monkey bars are the things on the playground. I don't know. But anyway, those are awesome. Man, those are great memories. Sadie said she was celebrating epic babies. Yes. So thank you for clearing that up.
Weirdo.
Yeah, she did call me a weirdo too. Thank you. But yeah, so we have Wild Kids. Our Wild Kids ministry is going to be starting up soon, serving our 0-year-olds to 5-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
And so that will be coming up in just a few weeks here. We don't have an exact date yet, but we are lining things up so that can happen. Sadie's been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, just getting things running there. So we're looking forward to welcoming, if you have kids in that age range, be on the lookout for that in the next couple of weeks. And we'll be looking forward to welcoming your kids back to Wild Kids. So thank you for that as well. Lots there to celebrate. So that's cool. Tonight, I just thought we could talk about the importance of celebration, just because we kind of broke out of our series Rhythms of a Disciple, and yet celebration is really a rhythm of a disciple. It's a rhythm that God sets up for us back in the Old Testament for his people, with regular festivals and celebrations that he wanted to see them do. And so there was a reason for that. And I think we're going to hit on some of those reasons tonight as we talk about this, but we just want to talk about why celebration is so important to God's people, and why, again, I think remembering what God has done, especially in times where it's sometimes hard to see what he's up to, is so important for us as disciples. We've had people, I think, come into Epic before who have told me it just doesn't feel like church, and that sometimes that can be a good thing. But these people I'm talking about don't mean it in a good way. Because, we lower the lights when it comes to worship. We have colored lights up on the stage, and the type of music that we play, some people walk out and just go, that didn't feel like church to me. It felt more like some kind of disco tech, right? Or was that aging me when I say discotheque?
You said disco.
It feels like some kind of party. And, and to me, I obviously wrestle with that. I don't want anybody walking away from Epic, but I do wrestle with the tension to say, well, that's actually a good thing. I'm glad that Epic feels like a party. because we should be having a regular rhythm of celebration, especially when we come together to worship and praise God, right? For all the things that he's done in our life. We should have a regular rhythm where we're looking to God. What is he up to in the midst of our circumstances? We could be very pessimistic or we could be optimistic. I choose to be optimistic in those times and to come together and to worship him for all the good things he's done, right? The incredible things that he's done. And I'm thinking, there are several times in scripture where we see people who miss out on a party because they're so caught up in themselves and in their own circumstances that they just refuse to enter into the party. And a lot of times it's used in scripture as a metaphor for what can happen to us as well, that we can sometimes miss out on the party, the kingdom of God, this party that, Jesus kind of relates it back to like a feast, a wedding party, that we can miss out on that because we get so caught up in other things, in ourselves, in rules, in jealousy, in pride, in sin, you name it. We get caught up and we end up missing the party. So there's two real scriptures, stories that I can think of right off the top of my head that I think are pivotal to understand. One of those, I'm thinking of this time when David is kind of coming back with the ark. He's bringing the ark back to Jerusalem. That's a pretty interesting story where he's celebrating. And Steve, why don't you talk about that story a little bit? Yeah. Describe that story and what's happening in the story, because I think it's an interesting story, and I don't want to get into it too much, but you can talk about it.
For sure. Yeah, if I just want to challenge and encourage our listeners to check out our 2 Samuel chapter 6, and that's where the story is. But it's David who wants to take the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark is where God's presence actually dwells. And so God is with Israel in the Ark of the Covenant. And so David wants to take, and he's a king at this time, he wants to take the Ark of the Covenant all the way back to Jerusalem. But one of the rules was don't touch the Ark of the Covenant with your hands. Otherwise, God's going to strike you dead. Well, as you're carrying it, it starts to tip over and starts to fall. And this guy goes over and he touches it. Boom, he's dead. And so David, out of his fear, actually takes the Ark, brings it over to a dude's house and leaves it there for 3 months. But in the time now think about this, God's actual presence in your house.
Right. I mean, yeah, like I'm going to guess, all right, I know the story, but I'm going to guess this man was a little blessed with the presence of God in his midst.
For 3 months, David realizes like, this guy is being blessed because the ark's there. We got to bring it back to Jerusalem so all people can be blessed, not just one.
Not just this dude in some random guy in his house, because we don't want to take it the rest of the way.
Yeah. And so as they're carrying it back to Jerusalem, they come to the point to actually coming there. And so David and all these people start to celebrate. God's presence, God's actual presence comes back to Jerusalem. And they're just excited. And they're dancing and they're partying together. And David is dancing. And then David's wife, Michal, who's seeing him off in the distance dancing, actually becomes really ticked off with David. Because she's like, you're dancing out there and you're looking like an idiot. It wasn't about him dancing, it was about her image and how she was looking because of what her husband was doing.
Yeah.
And I love David's response out of that, where he's like, I'm not dancing for you. I'm not dancing for these people. I'm dancing because of God and because he's going to bless us.
Yeah.
And his presence is with us.
Yeah.
And so, I just love that story.
It just feels like there's a certain level of freedom there when you can let go. It's almost like it sets this up where she's so worried about what other people think.
Yeah.
And here's David, supposed to be a king, a dignified person, not supposed to really show supposed to be powerful. All these ideas that she has going on in her mind and expectations that she has. And she's so worried about how other people are going to view him that she's kind of projecting onto him her own feelings, right?
Yeah, and if you look at it throughout that whole passage, it always refers to her as Michal, the daughter of Saul. Saul had a very different demeanor than what David did. Saul was very stature, image was everything for Saul. Where David was very much like, you know what, I'm just going to celebrate in God's presence, whatever that looks like. I'm going to start dancing. And she's like, I don't want to have any of that.
It sounds so freeing just to be able to do that. And again, I think just be okay with who you are and your heart and love for God that you're willing to just do whatever, regardless of what other people think. It's such a freeing story. So that's a great example, I think, of somebody, and especially in David's wife, who just kind of misses out on the celebration because she's so worried about what other people think. And then another story I can think of is the prodigal son. And in that prodigal story, we see something similar happen where, again, someone just misses out on the celebration because of that. So maybe Mel, you can hit that one up and just talk a little bit about that story and how celebration comes to play there too.
Yeah, sure. So basically, just in case you didn't know, the prodigal son, basically he's this kid and he's like, you know what? I basically feel like I can do life on my own better. So, or, my own. And so he basically wants his inheritance, so he's basically saying, Father, I wish you were dead. Just give me my inheritance now. I want to go and do what I want to do. And so his father does. He gives him his inheritance, and the son goes off and he basically just squanders all this money away. He just does nothing with it. And then he comes to this point where he realizes, like, oh my gosh, I would be better off being a servant of my father than what I'm doing right now. I'm like eating out of the pig trough. You know what I mean? It was that bad. And so he decides that he's going to go back to his father and just plead and beg for forgiveness. And just you don't even have to take me back as your son. Just take me back as a servant. I'll be living better. And I just think about, the father's, obviously it doesn't really say how long the son is gone for, but I'm sure I know he's been grieving his son, and he sees his son coming back, and his son's got this whole speech, like, I'm so sorry, Father. I repent. I know what I did was wrong, and blah, 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 blah. And his father just drops everything and doesn't hold a grudge, doesn't scold him, doesn't ask him where he was. He just starts to celebrate because he's like, my son was dead and now he's alive. Mm. And he's like, get the fattened pig and the robe and all that stuff, just we're going to have a party. And the older brother that's been faithful all these years, he doesn't want to join the party because he's jealous. He's like, why are you making such a big deal about this kid that just ran off and squandered all his money? And so he was making it all about him. And so, he was another example of just not wanting to join in that because of his selfishness, basically.
Yeah, and he missed out on the party. Which is crazy. And this, like, when Jesus is describing like the kingdom of heaven, again, this is how he describes it. It's like a celebration, like a wedding feast. Like there's a joining together of Jesus and the body. And, as that happens, like there should be a celebration. There should be, and so Jesus was always looking forward, even in his ministry, even from this very first miracle where he turns the water into wine, just kind of always dreaming about this day, this culmination where Jesus and his people are kind of reunited. And he says, like, that's the way that we should just be going through life, just celebrating what God is doing, all the time. Just make it a rhythm in our life. And it's even more necessary, I think, when it's not quite clear what God is up to. Like, we have to be more intentional, I think, to look at what God's doing. And this is a lesson that God teaches his people, through the Passover event. And I'm reminded of this psalm, and I want to read it together here. This is Psalm 66, 1 through 12. It is a psalm of celebration. I just want to read the psalm and then just kind of talk a little bit about what's going on. I'm going to I did make a little graphic here for this. I'm just going to throw it up on the screen, and then I'll read it. So here we go. Psalm 66, 1 through 12. For the director of music, a psalm. Shout for joy to God, all the earth. Sing the glory of his name, make his praise glorious. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. So great is your power that your enemies cringe before you. All the earth bows down to you. They sing praise to you. They sing the praises of your name. Come and see what God has done, his awesome deeds for mankind. He turned the sea into dry land. They passed through the waters on foot. Come, let us rejoice in him. He rules forever by his power. His eyes watch the nations. Let not the rebellious rise up against him. Praise our God, all peoples. Let the sound of his praise be heard. He has preserved our lives and kept our feet from slipping. For you, God, tested us. You refined us like silver. You brought us into prison and laid burdens on our backs. You let people ride over our heads. We went through fire and water. but you brought us to a place of abundance. That's just a beautiful song, I think, of celebration, especially on the back of what was a very tumultuous time. So let's talk a little bit about this. You know, the psalmist here he's talking about God bringing them into prison and laying burdens on their back, going through fire and going through water. That's how he puts it. Steve, what's he talking about there?
Yeah, you know, it's the difficulties that we experience in life and the troubles that we experience in life. I mean, we can understand that even now, going through COVID and everything else that's happening. And God uses those difficulties to actually refine us. We don't see it in that moment, because oftentimes we might say, God, what in the world are you doing? And we don't know maybe some of the things that God is unearthing or working behind the scenes. But for them, they're like, this is like a past thing that's happened, and they realize we are actually better because of it. So let's celebrate, because God refined us to be better.
Yeah. And so, you know, they're in this, we would say, very difficult situation. They were just freed from Egypt, going through the wilderness, very tough time, actually focused now on survival, just finding food for survival, water for survival. Very difficult process, setting up camp, tearing down camp, constantly moving, never really knowing where they were going to be the next day. We see them really being taught, right, to rely on God. So talk a little bit about that, Melanie. Just talk about this. He uses that language, and Steve kind of hit on it already, but just refining them like silver. How did God use that experience just to do that?
Yeah, well, I actually kind of looked up what that entailed, refining of silver, and it's very exemplary of what God does in our life. And so basically, when silver is heated, they heat it really, really hot until the impurities come to the top, and then they're able to scrape off those impurities, leaving a more pure silver. And so I feel like as we're going through hard times, I feel like we're kind of heated, you know, we're kind of stressed in that way in those hard times. And probably, I'm guessing, at least I feel like I have over these past, almost a year now of what we've been going through, just maybe the impurities, the things that we were worshiping that we shouldn't have, or just habits that we shouldn't have had. Maybe those were right, you know, kind of God was revealing those, because we had more time to, I feel like, to spend thinking. We were, you know, stuck at home a lot. And God was able to work on that, I feel like. And so I feel like that was just an awesome example of how God uses hard times to maybe remove those impurities or make us focus on him more, for sure.
I don't know about you guys, but I had a ton of time with myself, you know, and that obviously those are those moments where sometimes it's hard to be alone and to be with your thoughts and to be, you know, to really not be so busy in life that you can't kind of black out these things that God is speaking into your life, into your heart. And so, you know, I think right now is a great time to be talking about this, and just this idea that, again, God uses these hard times to refine us. But, you know, I think the psalmist here has to be very intentional about saying what God, like, it could have the attitude, right, that this is just difficult. Why are we in this situation? God, you led us here. This is the worst thing ever. You suck as a God.
Yeah.
Like, that could have that attitude. We could have that attitude now, going through the pandemic, everything that we've been through. Why have you led us here? That you must not care about us. You must not love us. We could have that attitude, but I think it's important. I think this is why God sets up this rhythm of celebration, that it actually forces us to stop for a moment and go, but what is God doing in the midst of this? What's he doing for me? What's he doing for us corporately? What's he doing for his church? What's he doing for the world? You know, these are all important questions, and it forces us to stop for a moment and take a look and say, well, what is God doing? God is still alive, and he is active. And if he is, then he's up to something. What could that possibly be? There are many good things that have come out of, you know, this pandemic, but it's going to take some intentionality for us not to fall into a pessimistic worldview, right? And so you know, in order to do that, I think God sets up these rhythms, even with his people as they're going through the wilderness. He sets up these rhythms of celebration to say, I want you to stop every now and again You could get caught up in tearing down your tents and resetting them up and finding food and finding water and just complaining about survival. But I want you to stop for a minute and think about what I'm doing in your life and the good things that are happening and celebrate that. And so celebration, I think, is just imperative, for us as God's people. When we look at the Passover event, the Exodus, as the people are traveling through the wilderness, like there's this sense that you have to, if you're God's people, then we acknowledge the sovereignty of God, right? That he is in control, that he's up to something. And so when we go through hard times like this, it's just important to say, well, what is he doing? If he is in control, then God has a plan here. He is up to something. What's he doing? For a non-Christ follower, someone who doesn't believe in God, we might call things that happen in our life good luck. We might call it karma. We might call it a million other things. But for Christ followers, again, we attribute those things to God, to his blessing in our life, to his provision. And so it's just a matter of stopping from time to time and saying, how is God, providing for me? What is God doing? How is he blessing me in my life? And ultimately, what he's doing to his people in going through the wilderness is he's teaching them reliance on him. That's really, ultimately how he's refining them. He knows once he delivers them to the promised land, they're going to have everything that they need. Life's going to be good. They're going to be comfortable. And if they don't figure it out now, how to rely on him, by the time they get there, they're never going to figure it out. And so I got to think at least God is doing that with us now. Is he not? Teaching us to be reliant on him in this time right now, teaching us to turn to him for his strength, for his peace, for mercy, for grace, for his salvation, for his deliverance. Again, these are things that God was trying to teach them through the wilderness so that they were prepared to get to the promised land. And I still believe that God, continues to prepare us today too, that he has a lot to teach us. And I think a lot to teach us about identity. And so as they're learning to rely on God, they're reminded that God was the one who delivered them in the first place. And because of that, they're his people. He's their God. That's their identity. And so as we celebrate, we also just get a piece of identity, right? We're reminded that God is our God. We are his people. And he is ultimately in control. And he's done a lot of amazing things for us.
Amen.
And just so this becomes the rhythm of God's people in the Old Testament. They're constantly coming back to this, celebrating the Passover feast, reminding them how God delivered them from the Egyptians, from slavery, headed into the promised land. Even after they get there, they continue to celebrate this event. And we kind of still do this today. We just celebrate a different event, right? And this is the idea of communion. In fact, last weekend, Fifth Sunday, in fact, every fifth Sunday, we celebrate communion. But this is kind of that idea with communion, that we come together to celebrate an event that is identity defining for us as a people. Steve, talk a little bit about that. Talk to that, will you?
Yeah, I love communion, and I loved our experience this past Sunday when we took communion together, because it really does a few things, but it really draws our attention back onto God and to celebrate what he did. The way that Israel celebrated the Passover being delivered from slavery, we celebrate communion because God delivered us from slavery as well, from being slaves of sin to being children of God. That's a huge radical change.
Yeah.
And we celebrate communion because God delivered us. And now we are looking forward to the promised land that we get to be with him forever.
For eternity.
Yeah.
And he does this through the giving of his son, right? Which is what communion kind of represents. The bread being symbolic of Jesus's body, which is given for us, the juice being symbolic of Jesus's blood, which is shed for us. And so we continuously come back to this event. It's this event, Jesus dying on the cross for us, being resurrected. That is the event that defines our identity. And this is something I didn't understand as a youngster that maybe I have a bit of better understanding of now. That almost everything in our life, when we start to wonder what God has done for us, it almost centers around this event first and foremost, right? Just like God's people in the Old Testament always came back to the Exodus, it comes back to God's deliverance and his love for us. and it loves us enough to sacrifice his son for our benefit. And we have to come back to that place first and come back to this ground that God loves us first and foremost and is willing to put it all on the line for us. And if we can start there with that foundation, then we can start to ask the question of, now what is he up to? In knowing that, if we can get to this place that we agree God does love us, he does want what's best for us, he proved that already through his son. Now what's he doing? Because again, I think as a kid, struggling through how I grew up and unanswered prayers and all of these things, feeling like, oh, God just doesn't care. He just doesn't love me. And we can feel like that going through the pandemic right now. God must not care. Otherwise we wouldn't go through this. Well, we have to start on this common ground that actually God does love us. He's already proven that with the giving of his son. So now if we can take that off of the table and we can stop attributing that motivation to him, now we can start to look for ways that he's working instead of wondering, does he care about us? Does he love us? He does. And that's why we continue to come back to communion. It's a reminder. He does love you. This is our reminder. He is our God. We are his people. He is our heavenly Father, and he treats us as his children. And if that's true, that means he's up to a lot of stuff that we can't even see. But sometimes we just need to be freed up to let our minds go there, to begin to start to think that. Sometimes we can't get past the, does God love me or does God care about me? And so that's why I think communion is so important. And coming back to communion on a regular basis is so important for us too, because it just solidifies our identity, that we are God's people, that he is our God. And, he has sacrificed a lot for us because he loves us so much. So that's why I think celebration is just so important. It's such a big part of who we are and of what we do. And so I want to thank you guys just for joining us tonight, for being a little part of our celebration, and just being able to celebrate together today. Let's see, this Sunday we'll be back in our Rhythms of a Disciple series. And Steve, you're going to be speaking this week. What are you talking on there, buddy?
Yeah, we're going to be doing the letter C in my epic, which stands for commit. Now the question is, what are we going to commit ourselves to? I'm going to let that dangle for a while, and you have to find out on Sunday.
What are we going to commit to? I always wondered, I knew you were going to commit me someday, Steve, but I didn't know it was going to happen already. Well, I look forward to that, and we'll be talking about that on Sunday at 10:15 a.m. You can join us in person at Epic Community Church. We are in Portland, Michigan. It's about halfway between Grand Rapids and Lansing. Maybe you're just driving through there. You want to stop in at 10:15 a.m. We would welcome you warmly. We are gathering in person, but you can also join us wherever you're joining us right now, on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, 10:15 a.m. on Sunday. We'll also be back next Thursday night for Thursday night Throwback. And we'll just be revisiting the topic again of committing. So you can join us right where you're joining us now for that as well. So thanks again for joining us tonight. Hey, do me a favor. Celebrate this week, would you?
Yes.
Be intentional about what God is doing in your life and find something worth celebrating. You are worth celebrating. You have value in God's eyes, and he loves you immensely. I just want to remind you of that. We love you. Hope to see you soon. Take care and good night.
Good to see y'all.
Bye-bye.